Welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Peter Martin. I'm delighted to say this week's guest is James McArthur. It is unbelievable. I feel so old because I can remember you as a fresh-faced kid at Hamilton Accies, breaking into that side. It was great days, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think when you're first getting into football, it's such an amazing experience. You're always kind of on a high because you're not quite believing that you're there and you're being given that opportunity. And at Hamilton, it was a great club where I had a lot of big characters as well.
Yeah, I view it as chaos before everybody went out to do serious training because there were so many characters in the place. I mean, even your kit man Danny was bonkers.
Yeah, it was a great club. Probably we were so close because it was it was obviously a smaller club where everything is right there. You know, you're upstairs for the canteen, everyone's there. You're in the same change room, and there's not many places to go really. Big characters. I think the success we had was down to how close we were, how much we wanted to have a laugh. Probably like days have changed, but you all wanted to go on a night out and celebrate that win. And for me, it was a great learning curve growing up to see not only how to win, but how to have a laugh, enjoy your football as well.
Yeah, amazingly, you're a great lesson for anybody who's a youngster, along with James McCarthy, and the fact that when I was watching you and I'm thinking, my God, you're at a club where they're going to play you, you're going to get games when you're younger, and you made over 200 appearances for Hamilton Accies.
Yeah, I think that's vital. I think that younger players now probably don't get that opportunity when you're maybe at bigger clubs, and I think it's so vital to play games, no matter what level it is, just going in and playing with senior players where winning matters. You know, you look at under 21s, under 18s, and it doesn't really matter if you win or lose. I know a lot is about development and making sure you try to learn the right things, but that's where you learn your character when you're playing with guys that it's about winning.
Yeah.
Like I keep saying the word winning, but I think it's probably went out the game so much that competitive spirit. I think that's probably why I done so well in my career. Where I think if you speak to my teammates, that's what I was. I was just competitive, wanted to win, and that comes from the grounding, the base of playing first team football.
But if you think you are a lesson and an inspiration to people on the park, for me you are a great untapped source of information off the park, because I think the SPFL and the SFA could look at your career and see where the structure has gone wrong, because quite simply the amount of people that say to me, when you're a youngster, if you get to play competitive football with older men, the learning curve is massive.
Yeah, it's probably choosing the right club as well, because when you're gone on loan, you see a lot of people who go in and don't play. So I think choosing the right club is very important as well. I think that it's not just in Scotland, it's all the way through Europe. I can speak for, obviously, England. I see a lot of kids down there that not potter about the under 21s and 18s, but they don't push themselves so much. I think when I was coming through with the boys I came through with, you went into a first team dressing room and I would kick anyone. Yeah. I would do anything. I think there's now that kind of happiness to be given that opportunity rather than thriving to, I'm going to make a success of myself no matter who's in front of me. And I think probably I think times have probably changed where everything is so much more professional than it was back in the day.
Yeah.
There's probably more talent now than there was, but I think the character that was once there may not be there as much, and I think that's due to the game of football allowing that to happen.
Yeah. Do you think it would take a leaf out? You could take a leaf out of, the book of you and your predecessors by saying, listen, either a reserve league or whatever, but there's got to be something that, instead of that under 21, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's got to be a kind of a league where you're playing with men and you're going to toughen up, because there's not many people, or a James McArthur, who say I'd kick anybody to get there, to win, to force myself on the game.
I agree with that, but I also think that the grounding of young men has went out the game of, let's say for instance sakes, cleaning boots or doing dressing rooms, helping the kit men. They're not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I know that we want to treat everyone the same, but there needs to be a ground in there where that's stood me in good stead for the future. And it didn't make me feel any less than anyone else. I think it's a respect thing that I look at people who, where I want to be kinda. I looked at Alex Neil's and Mark McLaughlin's at Hamilton and I go, I want to get there, but I also respect where I'm at. I want to work hard to get there. I think young kids now are probably, they're getting given everything a bit too early, where maybe if I get given everything too early, that drive isn't as much as it would be.
Yeah, it's the only ground, by the way, where I had the STV cameras. I'd never leave the camera alone, because I knew you guys would have it on, doing your own video production and everything. Everybody was at it in that team, weren't they?
Yeah, it was, as I say, it was a great dressing room. And our manager, Billy Reid, as well, he was a character as well. So if you've got it from the top, then it's going to feed right through. And I did say that about, that's where the success came from.
Yeah. How did you enjoy, or was there a pressure? You talked about the fact there that you were driven. How did you enjoy the fact that it was always about you and James? You were almost like the flag bearers for young footballers. Everybody was talking about Hamilton Accies, just talked about you two. Yeah,
I liked it because James got all the attention. I know that we always came as a pair, but young James, as we used to call McCarthy, always got the attention of, oh, you're this, you're that, you're this. And I probably went in his shadow, but I liked it.
Yeah.
I said off air about speaking about being back up the road, and I'm friends with Alan McGregor, play a lot of golf with him, and everyone comes up. If we sat here, they would come up, Alan, and no one would come to me, and I love that. I love that about, I can be in the background but get on with my job and try and succeed,
Let me tell you that that's probably a great testament to the fact that you made it down in England. Had you still been up here, there's that MacArthur. Yeah. Let's get into him, and annoy the life out of him. But when you get to that situation where you're playing regularly in the Scottish Premiership, was there anybody that you thought, I'm in for it today, this is going to be a tough one?
When you play against Rangers and Celtic, I think when you play against them, when you're down south, you're playing against Man Cities and Man Uniteds. You always go into the game thinking we could get something, but there's something at the back of your mind going, I hope we don't take a battering, So when you're playing the bigger clubs, there's not that fear aspect, but there's that, we need to do everything right. You play against, not say smaller clubs, but clubs more at your level. You're going, we can go and win, let's make sure we do this, this and this. If you're playing against the bigger clubs, you're going, let's hope we start well and we stay in that game.
Was there ever a game where you get roasted? You just thought, oh my God.
Liverpool beat us 7-0 one game. I spoke to the...
At Palace?
Yeah. Spoke to the doctor at Arsenal, who was my doctor at Crystal Palace, and they beat PSV 7-1 the other day, and he went, it wasn't a 7-1 game though. That was the same as against Liverpool. We went in 4-0 down at half time, and Jordan Henderson was hammering their players because of we actually played well in the game. They hit 4 shots, scored 4 goals, and he was shouting at their players, demanding more. And
wow.
yeah, that's probably why he done so well, where he had that drive for standards, not just about winning football games. Because you look at any player in the world, if they're 4-0 up, you're going in giddy and you're going in happy. He was going in with the standards of it wasn't good enough, the performance level.
Yeah. Were you up against him that day?
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
Was he the type of guy to give you banter?
Not so much.
No.
More drive and wanting his team to do well and demanding from all the players.
Yeah. What were you like in the middle of the park then? If you said to me you kick your granny to win a game, were you the type that would pick an argument?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't like that. I was more. I don't know who I was. It was Peter Crouch. I seen him at a golf day one day, and he went, "You were horrible on the field," and I wasn't horrible as in I wanted to have a go at you. I wanted to kick you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to win, so I would do everything possible to win. It wasn't being a bad person.
Yeah.
I would moan at the ref, or I would moan at other people, or I would kick, I would harass people. But that's probably, as I say, is where we've taken out of the game of players of that willingness to win. And you can look at quality. There's many much more quality players than myself that's maybe not done as well, but it's through winning. See, if you've got that mentality, it takes you a long way.
Where do you think you got
that? Probably the streets, playing football with older kids. I grew up in a place called Barrowfield, which was not really a nice place if you went into it now. My mum still stays there, never leave it. My roots are there. But there was a working class fighting for everything, try to win at everything, try to work hard, and it was my upbringing.
Yeah, and that makes it a tough job, doesn't it?
Yeah, a funny story. I met someone recently at a party, and they felt sorry for me because I came from Barrowfield, because they went, "You had a tough upbringing, didn't you?" And I took offence to it. I says, "No, I didn't." But because we didn't have money, people see it as a tough upbringing, but it wasn't. It was the best upbringing ever. I look at my kids now, and I want them to have the upbringing that they have now, but I also want them to have my streetwise and that work hard ethic that was installed into me with my upbringing.
Please tell me this, and it's only from own experience, James. Please tell me you drive your kids along and say to them, "That's the school I went to, and I didn't have that, and I didn't have that." You know, because my daughter looks at me and goes, "Dad, you're boring."
Honestly, a funny story. So I came from Barrowfield, but I used to go up to Duke Street quite a lot, and at the Tenants, you can turn right and take out all the traffic. But I went, do you know what? I'm going to show the kids where I used to hang around. It took us about 45 minutes to get along Duke Street with the Celtic game on. And I was like, oh, I should have showed them another time. Yeah, but I think that's important that you show kids, your kids, where you came from, but also instill that they are fortunate position, that the life they have as well. Yeah,
one of your teammates, you know, obviously I play in a lot of these charity games, and they come in and everybody was getting ready, and the banter's going in right, left, and centre, and the manager, I can't remember if it was Jim Duffy or anyway, the manager goes, right, and then the number 10's Alec Neil, right, and I went, "Oh, for fuck's sake, Alec Neil, what's he done in the game, right?" But I'm thinking about him in your team. Yeah. Mother of God, I would have loved to have him alongside me. He was great, wasn't he?
Brilliant player.
Is that where you get the biggest influence?
Probably as a younger kid that was getting into that dressing room was Mark McLaughlin and Alex Neil, I said earlier. Alex was such a good player, very, very underrated.
Yep.
But he also knew the game, and that's obviously why he's went on to be so successful as a manager. Me and James McCarthy were kind of like headless chickens, just running everywhere, where he would explain not only where to be, but why you should be there.
Yeah.
And that really helped us learn the game. Obviously, as you go, you learn more and more, but he was a big part of our career, and Mark McLaughlin, that willingness to win. Did you watch the Alzheimer's game at the weekend?
No, I missed it.
Yeah. So he said that
I was supposed to be playing in it.
Were you?
Yeah, and then obviously it ended
Just
up.
as well. I think we would have lost if you were in our
I
team.
don't know. He's one of Camden. You wanted penalties. I did say to Stuart Taylor, I said, if I'm not number 10, I'm going to be fucking raging, by the way. And then I looked at the photograph the other day there of all of you with the cup,
Yeah.
and I thought, I'd have been number 15.
But he's turning 50 this year, and he had a health scare probably about 10 years ago, and he goes to stand, I'll play 10 minutes, and he more or less played the full game because of that hunger and that willingness to go win and do well and compete, and he was a big influence as well.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? There is a generation. You talked about the generation who have got that hunger. I've got mates of mine, and you probably know a million and one of them, and ex-footballers, and we all get together on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and we still play sixes, and it's Boyd, it's Faddy, it's McGeady, Mark Wilson, it's Ian McCall, you name it, they all turn up because they just can't lose the bug.
You know what? See, after retiring, I've not played football since.
No?
That was my first game back, and probably because of my body's not in a great way, and I don't want to be sore and don't want to get injured. But being back in the pitch at the weekend, you think that you've lost that bug or that willingness to do well or win, and we're 1-0 down in the game, and I'm going, I don't care about my body here. If I need to run the full game, I'm going forward and back as much as my body could allow me. And I have definitely paid for that, because that was Sunday and now I'm still so...
You're still paid. Yeah. I want to ask you about the... you mentioned there the fact that the type of player you are. When you're in the middle of the park in Scotland, was there anybody who did give you the jip, who had the banter, who you enjoyed it? Because I see you and James as if you were headless chickens at times, you were also that kind of a cheeky, chappy type, off the park too.
So I came on against St Mirren once, and it wasn't banter. It was like I came on after about 20 minutes and I smashed Andy Millen. And at half time, Andy Millen put the fear into me as a young kid, but he was just one to win. He was like, I took him out and he went, you just wait to the second half, wee man, I'm coming for you, I'm going to get you. And I'm going, oh no.
I'm not coming out.
Yeah, oh no. Yeah, that was quite a scary moment. And then in the changing room, one of the lads must have heard him, and he's going, Andy Millen, he's a hard man as well. And I'm going, oh, don't make it worse.
He played in the Premier League in Scotland at 42.
Yeah, crazy.
It's just crazy, isn't it? Even Craig Gordon. You played with Craig Gordon at international level.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. As a keeper, it's obviously a bit different, but for...
What age did you chuck it?
35, just coming up to 36.
Yeah.
But mine was to do with my body, not so much legs-wise, because I could still get about.
Yeah.
It was like I got a hip operation, and my game's about getting about and trying to tackle people.
Absolutely.
And see when you go into training and someone's playing a 1-2 around you, and you're still standing where he passed the ball and he's away, you go, it's getting close at the time. Yeah. Actually, my last game, I came on for 20 minutes in the game, and the ball comes into me in my own box, and I see the pass to the striker, left foot pass, simple. The legs don't the legs don't. So I see it. The legs don't move. I'm dribbling about in my own box for about 8 seconds while they're all on top, and you hear the groans going,
Get rid of it.
and the legs just aren't working. And I pass it to someone, he clears it, and I go, thank goodness. But it looked so calm, me just going, oh, I'm nice and easy. But the legs weren't there to kick it, and inside's going, please don't concede, please don't concede.
Did you have when did you have the operation?
A year before that.
A year before it, yeah.
So it took me a long time to get back, and even in training, I knew it was time to go. And everyone says, why did you not drop down or play at this level?
Yeah.
And you still need to chase the guy down the line. You still need to train as hard. So it wasn't a case of dropping down would help me. I still needed to do all the work. So
You must have looked at Andy Murray and thought, fucking hell, how the hell do you keep going? Why do you keep going?
Yeah. It's going through it, and his was a much bigger operation than mine. It's the willingness to do well, and we speak about characters. That guy is such a strong character to come back from where he was to get back playing again, and I think he'll probably be the same as me, as in you'll miss it, but it won't be as bad because you know you couldn't do it anymore.
Aye, absolutely. And he's only got maybe about 60 million to fall back on. just to...
Everyone goes, like, I think from the perception of the outside is money, and money is an important part of every single person's life, but he won't ever think about money. Like, when I played, I never thought, if you do this, you can get that, or you can get that. And that's probably why you do so well.
Yeah.
I think if you're money driven, you probably don't get as much out of your career.
Absolutely.
I speaking personally, I probably done well because I love football. Like, I actually loved getting in. It didn't matter if it was on X amount of money or zero money. I would go in and enjoy it as much. We obviously played the charity match. I loved that as much as playing a game in the Premier League or the First Division in Scotland. I loved it just as much.
It's a great point you make, because somebody said to me, what's Neil Lennon need another job for? And I said, well, it's not about the money. It's about people having a sense of contribution, worth, drive, ambition, want to be part of something. That's what drives you. It's not, oh, by the way, I can hit 4 digits and I know I'm going to get 100 quid.
It's probably enjoying as well, like, because he's done a lot in the game, so it's not like he needs to prove to anyone that. Obviously in football, no matter level, you need to prove every single time you're in a job or you're playing. Messi and Ronaldo still need to prove each time they don't score a goal for 5 games. Oh, he's done, he's finished. So, and this is 5 years ago when they go on a goal drought.
Is that what Griggsy, is that the sense you got from him? Because I looked at him and I thought to myself, he never does interviews, right? So he just, and sometimes the person you meet privately and the perception out in the world, of Alan McGregor's totally different. But he didn't seem to have, I want to get back in right away. And then all of a sudden, up come the 4 staunch coaches, and they're all back in at Rangers, and it's all flying the flag, I know every one of them as well.
I think, I don't think that he would have been going, I need to get back into something just now. I think when you've had a long career, and it is a long career, no matter if you play at his age, my age, you play at 30, the stresses and the pressure, you don't realise how big it is until you come out of the game. So if I was at Crystal Palace, Wigan, Hamilton, you would go, are you under pressure? Or are you stressed? And you would go, no, not at all. But see, when you come out, you go, I was worried about that result, and I always had an eye on that because we could have got relegated. And
but every week somebody's got an opinion of you. Oh, he was rubbish today. He was great today. Were you able to block that noise out?
Going back to Messi and Ronaldo, if someone can call Messi and Ronaldo finished, then they can say whatever they want about me or any other player.
Yeah.
The game, not only the game, life is divided by opinions. And are you going to be able to please everyone? No. If you can go home and you're happy with yourself, then that's what's very important. And seeing when you're not, you try and get better for yourself. You don't do it for Peter Martin sitting there going, he was rubbish today, he was terrible.
Yeah.
You do it for yourself. Do I need anyone to criticise me? Is it going to be any more criticism than I will already give myself?
Yeah.
No. So listening to someone else doesn't really matter. I'm going to criticise myself, and I'm going to drive myself on through me trying to get better.
It's a great attitude to have. Did you get prickly though when somebody gave it to you?
No, I didn't. You know what? I didn't really get much abuse. The only time I got real abuse was when I kicked Saka. Yeah, the ball came out there, and I go to strike the ball, and he comes in from nowhere. Looking at the TV, it looked like I literally cemented him, and it should be a red card. But I didn't see him there. And the Arsenal fans ripped me a new one, honestly. But it's part and parcel of the game. You get highs and you get some lows, but they were more football events rather than someone saying you're rubbish or you're good.
Aye. When it was at its peak and you knew you were going to be leaving Hamilton, it was like they're going, who are they going to? Everybody's after them. I mean, James moved first, didn't he? And you followed him. Was it a trial first of all?
No, just a year later. So unlucky. In football, I think luck is a massive part of football and where you end up. I think that when you get that opportunity, you need to take it, obviously. But I played with Graham Jones, who became my assistant manager, who then goes to Swansea, who then go to Wigan, who take James McCarthy 1 year earlier.
Wow.
And if James McCarthy went down there and didn't do well, then Graham Jones can't go, let's go and sign McArthur.
Yes.
So I believe that I was very fortunate to get that opportunity. Obviously, from there, it's on to you to do well and make a career for yourself.
Yeah.
But I think I was very fortunate with that move.
It's amazing. It's a sliding doors moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you just think to yourself, but there was a lot of clubs that were sniffing about you.
Yeah, but from the media there was, but there wasn't concrete bids, and there wasn't. I think everyone goes, why did you not go there? And why did you not do that? And you go, I never had an opportunity to go anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
I think Wigan was always going to happen, but it took a lot longer than I thought I was meant to be moving just after the end of the season, and it dragged all the way until I think it was 23rd of July, getting in pre-season, doing 4 weeks and going, I don't know if this is going to happen.
Yeah, I'll tell you what was great about it though. I don't know if you share this view. You might contradict me on it. Hamilton was a great club because, you know, up above I knew all the structure of the board, who were all great people to chat to. The manager I got on brilliantly with, and the players I knew you guys all inside out. But you suddenly go to a club like Wigan, who, in my opinion, and I can only look at it from afar on the perception of watching him in interviews, you had Dave Whelan, who seemed to me like the most thoroughly decent guy, who was like your dad running a family.
Amazing man, actually amazing man, and what he'd done for that football club was remarkable. I still think he deserves even more credit than he gets. You look at where Wigan have got themselves into now, and it's not really a great situation where they are at just now, and it just shows you how we overachieved for a number of years, and it was mainly due to him.
Yeah. What did you think when you joined them? Who signed you?
Roberto Martínez.
Ah, right.
I was just buzzing. Like, I think when you go down there, you think, I'm not going to be good enough for one, because you're going to the Premier League. You train and you go, right, I'm not as far as I thought I was going to be off, but then you still feel you need to improve in every single aspect.
Yeah.
One of them was, I felt like I could run all day, but I could run all day at one pace.
Yeah.
Premier League wasn't that. It was intensity up, back
Yeah.
in, up, back in.
Well, Craig Gordon said to me that when he went down, he said the difference between playing in the Scottish Premiership at the time and then playing against players who were the cream of Europe, or some of them were world superstars, is they thought quicker, they hit the ball quicker, they hit it harder, and your reflexes had to be up a level. And every player I've spoken to was that same thing. Did you feel as if you then had to add things to your game?
Yeah, definitely. I think that you speak about influences in my career as well. Graham Jones was a big influence. My awareness wasn't great. Felt like every time I received the ball, I turned, I'd get smashed. And he would do drills with me to make me more aware and scanning. Fitness-wise, as I says, you can run all day, but there's not explosiveness, because I don't think that should ever go with my name being explosive. But that intensity of getting up and closing and back in, where I would just kind of plod along and get about. Roberto Martínez then taught me the game tactically, which was, getting a manager like that was great for my career. Even if I get into management after it, taking so many of the things you learn and understand about the game, not only your own position, but how we should play as a team and where other people should be, and understanding that as well.
Yeah. How highly do you rate him?
He's a top manager. You see that the career he's went on to have. Great man as well. I think some people can be good managers, but not nice people. But having the right morals is very important as a manager for a player to get on so well, understand them, and want to do really well from as a coach as well. Yeah.
When you're playing that Wigan side, how much of a bonus is it you've got your mate alongside you? Did you feel as if the two of you were holding your own?
Yeah. I think throughout my career I've had good partnerships, but I would always go back to going with James, because there was a real understanding and a real know that I could describe James's game inside out. When he's going to lose the ball, when he's going to get the ball, where he's going to try and pass, how he's going to probably smash someone and get into their face, and he would know my game inside out, and I think that's a massive thing. I think we pass the ball to each other, which I think is see me. I watch partnership pairings now, and I don't see them lending the ball to each other as much anymore, because it feels like, I want to play that pass.
Yeah.
I want to play the forward pass. I want to try and that was my ball.
That was my ball.
You know?
Yeah.
Where me and James would happily give each other the ball. Rather than me switching it, I would give it him. He could then play the ball out, which is a short pass. Or if me and you are playing with each other and I can't play it forward to the number 10, I could then lend it to James and he can play it, or he can play back.
Yeah.
And moving the other midfielders. I don't see it as much in the game.
Well, the ultimate one was Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta, Messi. Yeah. They just looked as if they had, down. Is that type of telepathy that you know his game?
Yeah, I wouldn't put.
No.
Yeah.
I was just stroking your. I was stroking your ego to see if you'd bite. No, but I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about.
We always wanted to give it each other so that we could make the right pass for the team rather than the right pass for an individual.
Yeah.
And that's why I always love playing with him. And as I says, when you know someone's game, if he loses the ball, he is going after that ball. So I now know he's going after it. So I now need to either cover for him or be ready to press.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to build relationships on a team. When you get a team that is not changing much, you speak about back fours, and most back fours who are doing well is same right back, same centre halves, so they know each other's game inside out.
Yeah.
But I did love playing with him. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel as if you were like a protective brother? Did he feel that way?
Not so much. No. It was more both you want to do well and both you doing whatever it takes to try and get 3 points.
Now, if you were shiting yourself when Andy Milne said he was going to smash you, you're playing against a different level of player. I mean, was there a player down there that he just gave you an absolute roasting and you thought, mother of God?
Probably through football, not scaring me and going. Down there, there's so many top players where the hardest I played against, and he was at Fulham at the time, and it was Moussa Dembele who went to Tottenham. Played against him at Fulham, and when you go up to lounges or that, they always ask you the same questions: who was the hardest? And I always said him, and everyone went, he plays for Fulham, and I went, it doesn't matter. As a midfielder, you never get like drove with the ball. You're always, I need to press him, and then he passes it, and then and then he passes it. With him, he looked at you and went, me against you.
Is that right?
He just ran at you in the middle of the park, and you're going, my partner's here and he's here, so I can get protection. He's like, no, I'm running at you. He's brilliant on the ball, strength. You go and press him, and it becomes a 1v1, and that's what fullbacks do. They play 1v1. Centre mids don't play 1v1.
Yeah.
So I'm going, what's happening here? what am I meant to do here? You know. But he was a top player.
Yeah. You join a Wigan side that you probably say, I could have a good career here. I don't think anybody in their right mind's thinking, I think I might win an FA Cup here.
Yeah, that was incredible. It's so funny because we get relegated 3 days later.
I know, which was gut-wrenching.
Yeah, and see if you asked 90% of that change room would have said we would rather stay up than win the cup.
Is that right?
At the time, yeah, because Premier League football was everything. I know I said it's not about money, but your money's getting 40 or 50% cut.
Yeah.
You're not playing the biggest league in the world where you go, that's where I want to be at. But now, if you asked, I think more or less 100 or close to 100% of people would say, I'd rather win that. No matter what my career becomes, you've got that meadow that you can, when FA Cup week's on, you can always go, oh, it's FA Cup week, actually, but it's something that you can take away at the end of your career and be very proud of.
Oh, absolutely. You're etched in history. I mean, I know you're still a young man. You've got lots more to achieve, but the medal, the shirt, the day, the memories, the team, the teammates. I looked at your side, right, and I thought to myself, if I'm going to go and look at the highlights for James comes over here this week, and I looked at the highlights and I thought, oh my God, look at that team. There's some right good players on that side of yours. And then I said to myself, but wait a minute, the team you played against, Nasri, Silva, Toure, Aguero, Tevez, and even then Milner and Dzeko were subs.
Yeah, it was a top team. We played against them 3 weeks earlier, and I've said this before, I believe that we won that because of Roberto Martínez. The tactics that he played in that game, it countered everything that City were good at, which they were also bad at. The fullbacks were one of the main threats in the games, and they went so high and created overloads. But what we done is we played a 3-4-3. I played right wing back for the first time I've ever played it in the final.
Against who?
Nasri.
Nasri, wow.
But I had Emerson Boyce behind me, so it wasn't like you're
exposed.
Yeah, he would always come over and protect. But we left our wingers up, so we played 3-4, 2 wingers up, and the striker played deep like a number 10.
Yeah.
So every time we got that ball, we hit a winger. So now Zabaleta and Clichy were running forward, now they need to sprint back, and we're now playing 3v2 more or less.
Yeah.
So I don't think that many managers would have had the courage to do a tactic like that. We'd done it 2 or 3 weeks earlier, away. We lost 1-0, but we played really well. So I think that they would have been thinking, we'll just do the same. But on the day we were on it, and Callum McManaman in the game was incredible.
He was really skillful, wasn't he?
Incredible performance. Every FA Cup game, he literally became the 100% Callum McManaman, where in Premier League he probably didn't do as well, but didn't do as good as what he'd done in the FA Cup.
Yeah. Do you think it was a lucky run?
The draw was very lucky.
Still had to beat Everton.
Everton away 3-0 was a great result. And it's a great run until you get to the final and you go, we need to be on it. They need to be off it. And you need to pray that you take that chance. And Ben Watson, when that goal goes in, it's an unbelievable feeling. But then there's a fear, oh no, we need to hold on for 2 minutes, and you're running about going, kick it, header it, don't try and take touches. And then you're going, we could win the FA Cup here. There's that realisation. I think the only time when we started believing is when Zabaleta gets sent off, maybe 5 minutes to go, and you're going, wow, we've got a chance here.
Yeah. Was all your family there?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it was
doesn't get any better, does it?
Unbelievable.
Emotional?
Surreal.
Yeah.
I don't think the emotion was kind of there, because you're going...
You don't strike me as a crier.
Not really. It's kind of like you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do, you're sitting in a change room after. I probably didn't get enough photos because I wasn't really fussed about it, but then later on you're going, it would have been good to have pictures and it would have been good to do this, but you're not in the moment.
No.
You're not thinking about the future, you're just going, wow, we've won this. And then you're going, we need to beat Arsenal to stay up. So you're not, there's no sense of enjoying it. You're
Was there
not
no
having
immediate?
a beer.
No?
Nothing.
No, wow.
On the bus back to the hotel.
You must be the only team that was in that zone.
Yeah. The year after, it changed to the last game of the season.
Yeah. Did you... Well, I say it, you don't strike me as a person who's emotional. If the high is winning the FA Cup, you're in the moment. Wow. I mean, the low is the low. I mean, God almighty, man. How are you feeling? Relegated.
You know what? We were probably lower as a team, which you talk about a preparation for a final, we were probably lower before that. We lost 3-2 to Swansea on the Wednesday night, and if I showed you the goals, you would go, how the hell did you lose that game? And the right back has never scored a goal. Angel scores. Tian Daly, I think his name was. The other fullbacks never scored a goal. He scored. We give the ball away. I don't really want you to watch it, but Sean Maloney always takes the piss out of me more or less, because we lose the ball. I get to the back post. Sean's standing there to clear it. I get shot out a cannon to go and dive and header it. It hits him, it falls to them and score. And after the game, there was just like, no one even wanted to play the final. Yeah. It was like that realisation of we could actually get relegated, because many years we went on this run for 3 or 4 years. It was like, how did you stay up there?
Yeah.
How was that possible? And everyone in the media went, they're fine, Wigan are fine, and you're going, we're in the bottom 3. They're fine because they'll go on that run again, but it never happen. Came. No.
Yeah, we should get a photograph at the end and just send it to Maloney and say, why didn't you clear that ball?
Yeah.
No, you can laugh. You didn't laugh then.
No,
I mean, that in itself, reaching a cup final, is absolutely magnificent. When they get relegated, I suppose it really becomes selfish as a footballer, because the amount of players that I have interviewed down through the years who do like the fact of being part of a team because you can't win anything without a team. But there's always that little bit that the selfishness kicks in and you think, do I really want to play in the Championship? What have I got to get out of here?
Yeah, I think as a player you always want to play the top level. I stayed for one year, and I actually loved my year in the Championship, where you want to play at the top level, but when you go down and play Championship, it gives you that drive even more to get back there, because you're going away to Chelsea and I'm away to Arsenal and I'm playing big match on a Monday night against Man City. So it gave me that drive even more inside to try and get back there, and I was fortunate enough that Neil Warnock came in and signed me eventually.
Yeah, you moved to Crystal Palace. Is it a club that you liked?
I played against them in a cup, and the noise was incredible. It was a Tuesday night, and that was in a cup game against Wigan, who is a big game, but you wouldn't say, wow, that's a massive game. And the noise was incredible. So I never thought, oh, I'd love to play here, you know, because you're at a team in Wigan and you're going, we need to try and do well, we need to try and get promoted. You're never thinking about any other clubs. And when the opportunity came, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, by the way, moving. The stresses of it is not nice at all.
House, family, area.
More, is it going to happen?
Is that right?
More these are in for you. That's been rejected, and I gave Wigan, but I stayed at Wigan for a year, and they said, if an opportunity comes, then you can move next year. And that opportunity came, and they didn't want me to move. The manager openly told me, I'm not selling you.
Who's that?
Uwe Rosler, who I loved.
Yeah. One
of the best managers I've had.
Is that right?
He was brilliant manager.
Did that anger you though?
I wasn't angry, but I was going, I want to go if there's opportunity there. It's funny because I spoke to my agent about 3 weeks before it, and I went, don't worry about me, because he's got other players, don't worry about me, I'm fine here. But when the opportunity came, I was going, I want to go back and play, because you don't get many opportunities. I spoke about luck and that opportunity, go to Wigan, and if you don't move to Crystal Palace that year, you don't know where you ever get that opportunity to go and play Premier League again.
Yeah. What was it like, that area? Were they good people?
Crystal Palace. It was an unbelievable club.
Yeah.
Fans were amazing. Made you feel so welcome. When you're losing in matches, a big part of why the club are in the Premier League for so many years didn't turn. I played many teams where you would go frustrate the team for 30 minutes and the fans will turn.
Yeah.
The pressure will get a lot. The fans, you could be 3-0 down and they would still sing and they would still encourage you, and you score that goal and it becomes hard for the other team to change the momentum.
Yeah.
Amazing fans, amazing club. Speak about characters, probably the changing room that I went into was the biggest characters I've ever experienced.
Bigger than Hamilton?
More drive to win, probably.
Yeah.
More drive to succeed, where Hamilton was great characters, great laugh, but it was like that kind of elite level where it was like everything matters, standards matter, drive.
Who impressed you the most?
There's big characters. Scott Dan, massive character. Damien Delaney, Jason Punchin, Mile Jedinak was like a captain that if he just walked into a room, you would go, I need to get on it here.
Yes.
You know, he didn't even need to shout at you, he didn't need to say anything, but his standards set it for everyone else. And I try to kind of take a bit from that. Towards the end of my career, Dougie Friedman says to me, you need to slow down, you need to start managing your body, you need to start doing less in training. And I always went, how can I try and demand from other people if I'm going to take it easy and slip? You know, so those standards I always took from those big characters of take a bit from them and try and take it to the next generation of kids.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned punching, because I look at you and I think there's okay. You've gone John Crystal Palace. what's the remit here? Stay in the Premier League, and then of course you're in an FA Cup final again. And by the way, what did you think when he scored? You're on it here.
Yeah, that's probably the one thing. Like I seen a question the other day about golfers. If you had one mulligan, one shot that you could take back, that's the day that I go, I wish that changed. That's the one, even over staying up in the Premier League.
Yeah,
because that's the one that I know you've won it, but for everyone else as well, for the experience that we were so lucky at Wigan to have, all my teammates, I would have loved that. And obviously, imagine having two. Like you've got one, but
I like being greedy.
That's the one game that I go, I wish I could change that.
Yeah. Do you wish you'd closed down your man?
Rooney just went to another level.
I know, he beat 3 or 4 players.
He literally, he won him the game that day. So tight in the game, and you score that goal, and it's like, wow, let's hold on again, you know, like that. And everyone, and it's funny because when you get older, you go, why do we change that? Why can we not change that mindset to keep doing the right things, keep doing what you were doing before? But it's that if you've got something to lose, and it's okay. A psychologist saying it. It's okay, me going, sitting in the stand going, why don't you just try and keep playing the same way? But when you're on there, there's that, we've got something to hold on to. There's that, why do we want to go and try and score another goal if we've got a goal? But if you keep playing the way you were playing, you keep that momentum, then maybe we'll win that game.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. I've got 2 things to ask you about that. You mentioned psychology, but first of all, it took us the game. It followed a very similar pattern. Smalling gets sent off. You must have thought to yourself, "Oh, for God's sake, the gods are with us again."
Yeah, it's funny because I think a lot of the Crystal Palace fans are still bitter about, because we scored the goal in that game where it was a foul, but Connor Wickham,
Clattenburg stopped it, didn't he? Yeah,
but I don't look at it like that. I just look at it as we were 1-0 up and we threw it away.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of that moment. It was because we didn't do enough to win that game.
Is that the most painful?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Obviously, getting relegated was so tough. But it was a one-off day, and it's like the Premier League's over 38 games, and you go, we should have done enough in all of the games to stay up. So it was our own doing, not staying up. But when it's down to one game in one moment, you go, wow, that's hard to take.
Yeah. How proud were you to play for Scotland?
Immensely. As a player growing up, that's all you want to do. And it's the best thing I've done in my career. Even winning the FA Cup, obviously, is such a high for me personally, but playing for your country is everything for a young boy. It probably became, I've said this before, I probably put too much pressure on it and put it higher than I did at club football. I know it is bigger, but if I was able to do what I'd done at club football, I think I would have done better in my Scotland career.
Yeah.
I think that...
But over 30 caps is bloody good.
Yeah, but I never came away from them going, you done yourself justice there. Because of I put probably too much pressure on doing well for myself, for my family, for my nation.
Yeah. Do you think the pressure of trying to reach a major championships was also in the mix?
I never really thought about that. I always thought about the individual game. I always try and look at the individual game, but it was more see when somebody wants to do well so much that sometimes they don't get the best out of themselves. I think that's probably what I'd done when I was with Scotland.
Yeah. Was there a particular game that you loved?
My first game.
Yeah.
I think Scott Brown got injured in warm-up, and I came in as a late call-up, and Craig Levine threw me in front of other people, and I was going, wow, this is unbelievable. And it was a friendly, it was the Nations League, and the buzz I got from it was incredible. I actually scored in that game. I was at the edge of the box, and I went to dink it to the back post, and it went straight in at the top corner.
Please tell me you walked away as if it's the norm.
After the game, they says, "Did you mean that?" And I went, "Should I say yeah?" And I went, "Nah, you're an honest man." I went, "No, did I help?"
I'd be like, "Oh yeah, spotted the goalie."
But that was. I said earlier about when you're coming through as a first team player, the buzz is just like incredible. That was the same buzz and more to play for your country, but score, and it's your first ever time. It was.
I'm going to ask you this question as a wee bit. It's just down to the fact of I'm a hoarder, love memorabilia. Have you kept that shirt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one at home. The funny, you said about the shirt at the FA Cup final. A funny story. So, my granddad wanted a strip for a charity event, and I went, yeah, there's one there. So I ended up giving him one. So years later, I was looking for my strip, and I gave him my FA Cup final strip.
No.
Right, and I played with big Lee McCulloch and his mate, and they came up to me and they went, "Look at this, my mate got this. It wasn't even an auction, it was a raffle." He went, "He's got one of your strips." FA Cup final strip, and he gave me it back.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How lucky are you?
I gave him a signed strip for one of my mates, and he gave me it back. So it's actually unbelievable.
Do you not get two on the day though? No.
I swapped one with one of the players. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Have you got that now framed?
It's in the house. I'm waiting for it to be framed. Yeah.
Oh, don't. There's no rush.
No.
Don't go too quick on it. I think it would be remiss of me before we finish. I've obviously got a wee quick fire set of questions for you as well, but it would be remiss of me not to get your thoughts on, players who are similar to you now. I mean, all the buzz is about Lennon Miller and where he might end up and what he's got to do. He's got a shrewd dad who's obviously going to help him with advice. What advice would you give him as he's a young starlet that everybody's talking about, similar to the pressures you were under?
I would say go down south. So I would. I think the sky is the limit. When you go down to, obviously you want to be playing Premier League, but I think the sky's the limit. I think you learn so much by amazing coaches. I learn a lot by playing against top players. What to do, you find out your weaknesses very quick and how to get better. Obviously, if there's a chance of going to Rangers and Celtic, they're massive clubs. But playing against the cream is like you learn so much. The buzz out of it when you go and beat a top club. You're always in a shop window when you're down there. If you, for instance, say you look at Ryan Christie, who's went down and done unbelievable. There'll be clubs going, he's a good player. Do we want to take a chance on him? So I think you want to go and play in the best league and learn under the best managers and play against the best players. I learnt so much, not only playing against top players, but playing with my teammates, you know, who were really, really good players, who all had different attributes. And you obviously, to go down there and do well, you need to do the right things as well. You need to try and not get caught up in I'm going out all the time. I am getting caught up when maybe people are playing and they're going out to celebrate, or people who aren't playing who are getting caught up in that lifestyle of I'm going to play, I'm in the Premier League, and you've always got something to prove, no matter what age you get to, and you can always learn no matter what age you get to as well.
And with that in mind, he's not, obviously money's important to him,
Yep.
It will be in this big move, but he wants to play. And he said he has to, the move has got to be some kind of guarantee of playing. But, you know, at that top level, would you say, listen, you know, Lennon, playing is all about the drive and the focus? Is that what the driving force should be, rather than saying some manager's going to say, I'm going to play every week?
I don't think any manager will give anyone a guarantee that they'll play. I think it's down to you as an individual to improve every day, no matter what club you're at. If you're at your club just now, or you move on to the next one. If you want to go to Celtic, there's no guarantee you play. So every young kid, every experienced player needs to prove themselves in football, and if you don't, no matter who you are, you're not going to play. So I don't think that you can be guaranteed. Obviously, what he'll be thinking is a realistic chance of me going down to play. If he goes to Man City, he might be thinking, no, I'm not going to be getting a game here, you know. But it's down to him to fight and prove his worth, really.
What do you make of him?
He's obviously a top player. You need to keep your feet. He needs to obviously keep his feet in the ground. In my opinion, block everything out and concentrate only on football, not what people are saying from the outside. I probably learned that when I was younger as well, where I think your first big moment, mine and James McCarthy's, when we beat Warnock in the cup 2-0, and next day in papers, staying up all night buzzing, you're looking at what people are saying about you, you're looking at marks, you're looking at what was his rating. I think the best thing as a footballer is blank everything out, because there's going to be a lot of negativity out there as well.
Yeah. Anybody else that's impressed you in the game in Scotland this season that you looked at and you've thought, oh yeah, I have a bit of him?
I think I support Rangers, but I think probably the full Celtic team just now, which is hard to say. I think they've been really impressive, not only as individuals but as a team. I think last year when Brendan came in, there was a big chance for Rangers to win the league, more or less, and that probably changes a lot. From winning the league, Brendan seems to have taken them to a new level, which is obviously not nice for them to see, really. But Hibs seem to have been kicked on. I speak to Big David Marshalls, my friend, and the start of the season they had a bad start, but they seem to have kicked right on, and it's good to see them doing well for him. And
just to finish, I know you're a big Rangers fan. Would you like to have come back and played for them to finish your career, or at least played for them at some point in your career?
Obviously, as a fan, yes, but as a family man, probably not. I love, as I said before, I love the way I can walk down the street and not get bothered. I love that my kids aren't Rangers or Celtic players' kids. That's us. It's just my kids are who they are. Probably earlier on, I would have liked to have played for them, but not at the end, because I couldn't move anymore. And as a fan, you don't want to go somewhere where you know you can't succeed with your body, with getting injured, and you then become probably a failure in a lot of people's eyes. So I'm happy the way my career turned out, and I wouldn't change it.
Yeah, and if there's one player that James McArthur, no injuries, you're at your absolute peak. If there's one Rangers player from the past that you'd like to have played alongside and thought, I could have helped him out, I'd have loved it.
The one player I would have loved to have played against back in his prime, and I know I couldn't have held him, was Gascoigne. Grown up watching Gaza and Loudrop, and then the team that eventually came after, which was unbelievable, was obviously good days for Rangers fans, but Gaza was like, as a midfielder watching him, he was probably more like, when I say about Dembele, of I'm going to take the ball and run at you, where other people, midfielders, don't really do. He was that type of player.
Would you have been happy to do his running for him?
Yeah. I would have loved a player like I played with the boy Wilfried Zaha, which was a phenomenal talent. But I always tried to play on his side so I could just give him the ball simple, and just go, right, you do that. I'll do the all the work and simple. And he was a player, Gascoigne at Rangers, that you could just do that.
Yeah, listen, I've absolutely enjoyed it. It's probably the longest time I've ever been in your company without battering you.
Yeah. I think you need to tell the viewers why I came on, because it was on Sunday night.
Yeah.
We donated a prize to Alzheimer's Scotland, and doing a good deed. You absolutely battered me and Big Alan McGregor, absolutely destroyed us for everything, but we loved it as well. And after that, I was going to actually want to spend more time in your company. It was brilliant.
Couldn't get any better. Listen, it's been absolutely magnificent. I thoroughly enjoyed the banter. I've enjoyed the stories. Going back through your career, I am so glad that I bumped into you the other night there and caned you within an inch of your life. It's been a joy on Straight Talk. Thanks to James McArthur. I hope you enjoyed it too.